What's up, guys? I'm doing the Q&A answers today. So I wanted to kind of get into that. Let me pull up the questions I had. I hope everyone's having a good day today. Let me see what I have. Let me see. Let me see. I should already have this pulled up, but I'm slacking. Alright, so I'm just going to go through the questions and answer them as I come to them, and just kind of explain, what I do for that instance, or whichever. So for the first question, Patrick Yang, he was asking, how are you figuring out the depth to fish in a new creek? Some creeks can be 2 foot to 20 foot deep. That's a good question. What I do is a lot of the stuff that I fish, the creeks that I fish, is based on experience. So I kind of know this creek they tend to be this deep. This creek they tend to be this deep. It just depends. And that has all come from just fishing the same places years and years and years, and you kind of gather. Every year you kind of notice the fish gravitate toward a certain depth, certain area. So that's kind of how I figured it out. But if I was going to a creek that I had no idea, the first thing I would do is I would get just the plain, just take no bobber, no nothing, just a straight jig. I would cast around and just kind of get an idea. Let the jig go all the way to the bottom. And the longer it takes to get to the bottom, the deeper it is. And then that would kind of give me an idea of if the creek's shallow, if it's deep, how it's set up. And then I would look if there's current. If there's current, those fish are going to be on the edge of the current. So that eliminates the fast moving water. And then again, if it's deeper or shallow, I would start, if it's a deep creek, I would start deeper. If it's shallower, I would start real shallow. And then I would also look around and see, if there's stumps or how deep the stumps are. If the stumps are in deeper water, if they're in shallow water, I would look and see what all the structure is. And then, to be honest, I would just go fish. Just go fish each one. If it looks like there's fish there, then I would change up some depths. I mean, do that no matter what, but especially if you see a stump that is in good depth of water for the creek. If it's shallow, then it would be shallow. If it's deep, then it would be pretty deep. And if you think there's fish there, keep switching depths. Just keep switching depths, and eventually you'll start catching them. And then also look at the video after this. I will show you, I'm going to post a video about the different types of bobbers for different creeks, just to kind of give a breakdown of what I use for the given creek. That'll be very helpful too, because if the creek's deep, you don't want to use you don't want to use a pegged bobber, because it'll be too hard to cast all that line out there. So yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I wish I knew it was, I would fish this deep, but it's just really, you get out there and try and figure it out based on the creek and based on what you see. So that's what I would do. Just keep fishing around different depths until you start catching fish, and then focus on that depth. And then Shelly Covington asked, what jig did I use this day? And this is the video that I posted the questions on. This one, I believe it was one of these feather jigs that I tied up. I'm pretty sure it is. Just a little feather jig, 16th ounce. I tie a lot of them up. I haven't had time to tie them up lately, but I'm going to. Just need to get some more jig heads too this weekend. But just a little feather jig that I tied. I mean, the color really doesn't matter, I don't think. Just find you some colors that look good and then fish those. So that's what I was using for this last creek video. And then Meh put, when are the white bass going to head up the creeks? That's another good question. They're all good questions, but that's a good question too. With with the springtime coming up, these fish are going to start moving up. And I don't know what part of the country Meh is from, but here in DFW, these fish, there's gonna be I know there's already some fish up. In one particular creek, I know there's fish up already. It's just got limited bank access, and I don't really know the lake good enough to run my boat up in there to do that. So I just wait till they go to the other creeks that I know better. But I know there's some up there now. And I will say by mid, especially with the winter that we're having, which it hasn't been cold. That's another thing. I went to a creek today and didn't do any good. It's just it's not cold enough. It hadn't been cold. So with the winter being milder, there's going to be sand bass move up for sure by Valentine's Day. In particular creeks, not every creek, but there are certain creeks that will have sand bass move up within 2 to 3 weeks. More than just the one that I know of now. And again, it kind of goes, based on experience as well. Some creeks, them sand bass move in now. Some creeks, they move in February, mid-February. And some creeks, they don't get in there really good until March and April. It just really depends on the creek. And then with time, you'll figure that out as well. So yeah, I'm personally gonna start looking roughly mid-February, Valentine's Day-ish. Especially if we have some warm weather and some decent rains, I will be checking them out. So be on the lookout for those videos in the future. Let's see. Fishing with Fredo said, do I ever see any weird stuff around the forest that you walk through? And also, what's the lightest jig weight you will go to? Those are good questions. The first part of his questions is, what is the weird stuff that I've found walking through the forest? I've walked through hundreds of miles of creeks. I've found some weird stuff, but surprisingly nothing that weird. I find like basketballs and pumpkins, and that I'm sure get washed in from the floods. I found an old timey oven, a really old timey like wooden stove oven type thing. I've ran into pigs. I've run into deer. Spooked deer. Those pigs were pretty scary because I know those will get after you. But luckily I heard them before I saw them, and then I looked up and saw them and kind of just stayed back and let them kind of scurry off. And they didn't seem aggressive. They didn't try to turn on me or anything like that. And then I would say the weirdest thing I found was just in the middle of the woods. I don't know if it was a hunting setup or what it was, but there was just like a bonfire area where someone had a fire. They had like little places to sit all around the fire. It didn't look like anyone was camping there either, but just out in the middle of nowhere. And it didn't look to me like it was a hunting area, but like they were just hanging out. And then I found some homeless people living in the woods as well. That's really the weirdest things I've found. Besides, trash, like, cans, this and that. And so nothing too out of the ordinary, which is surprising because like I said, I've walked a lot of creeks. I'm surprised I haven't found something weirder than that. So let's see. Chippo Fishing said, do you ever pop your cork? And pop it viciously with long pauses between pops. What I have found is that most of the time, the fish, when fishing a jig and bobber, most of the time, them fish don't want the bobber now I'd say that for crappie. Sand bass, you can pop it pretty good with sand bass and they'll hit it. Sand bass are just more aggressive fish. But for crappie, it seems like the subtle twitches, 2 or 3 twitches, let it sit. 2 or 3 twitches, let it sit. And sometimes I let it sit for 2 seconds, sometimes I let it sit for 10 or 15 seconds. It just depends on, again, how the fish are biting. And you can tell, after a while, if the fish are biting it, when you're twitching it quick, on the pause, if they actually hit it when you're twitching it, you'll notice that, and you'll be able to kind of key in on what they want that given day. So I would say I don't usually pop it very, very hard. Usually it's pretty subtle. Let's see. The Mower Medic asked, what part of the country are you in? I'm in the greatest state there is, Texas. So that's where I'm at. DFW area. And that is all the questions I had. I did not have that many questions. You know, I'm trying to, you know, do something interactive until I get the capabilities to go live. So that will be coming in the future. I just wanted to kind of do this, just to kind of get a little more, you know, interactive with you guys and gals. Yeah, I'm going back through just to make sure, but yeah, that's really all I see. Yep, that's it. So be on the lookout for this next video that I'm going to post. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna break down how to rig your bobbers for different types of fishing and different types of bobbers. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, you can always ask me questions just normally on comments, and I try my best to answer them. I can usually get to most of them. So yeah, just shoot a comment on there, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks again.